Okay. So welcome everybody to Coffee Talk. I'm so excited to meet somebody new. Tell me how you pronounce your name.
It's difficult. It's Prerna. Prerna.
Prerna.
Oh yeah, you did well.
And where are you living now?
I'm from Mumbai, India. What about you?
Cool.
Where are you from?
I'm living in Northern California, near
Is
San
that
Francisco.
is that your house? Like you've got such beautiful jewelry.
It is. This is, I moved my boutique into my dining room about a year ago. So yeah, I have a beautiful jewelry boutique in my dining room.
Not bad to sit and look at while we eat.
Yeah, there's really not much room for eating. So usually I'm in the kitchen, like leaning over the counter. It's bad. Or going out to dinner.
Not many people have a jewelry boutique in their dining room. So what else is possible?
Yeah, it was really funny because when I moved here a few years ago, I had a beautiful dining room table and I had the nice chandelier that you see up here. But this room was like funky, like didn't have something going. It was like, what does this room require? And when I closed my boutique and moved everything in, it was like, oh, that's what it wanted to be.
So. Wants to be adorned with jewelry.
Exactly. And I get to sit in this window and look at my backyard and all the hummingbirds and the flowers and my lemon tree. It's just a great space.
Hummingbirds and lemon tree are two of my favorite things outside your window.
Really?
I love hummingbirds and lemon trees. I think they're so pretty.
Yes. And my family is really big on lemons. So it was perfect.
No wonder I took this lemony color shirt out. I wonder what I was aware of.
So there's a couple of people watching. Hi, everybody. I thought we could use for the subject, since there's been so much going on, just what to do when you feel overwhelmed or when you feel like you have so much going on. Because I find that a lot of people, they'll like only do one thing at a time to try to stave off that feeling of overwhelm, but then it gets boring. You know how you're like, well, that was too easy to handle. And like, I have all this other space now.
And also we talk about an access, like what Gary talks about, like humanoids need to create. And if you're not creating our lives and our business, then we're creating crap. We're OCC, we're obsessive compulsive creators. So if you're not creating, we turn into like obsessive compulsive creators of crap, or like he says it, OCCC. So right. I mean, and how many times do we like create crap just because we don't have anything else to do? So yeah, and I was just talking to Julie before we got on this call, and I was like, I'm so tired because we just went through the Global Foundation and we went through COP. I'm also facilitating a few classes at the same time. Like I have no energy to like do anything at this point. And like, so Julie was like, why do we talk about that? Why do we talk about when we have like too much to create? And that reminded me of Shannon, who's Guy's stepdaughter and also the creator of Talk to the Entities. And there was a conversation where we spoke about how everything in nature is cyclical. So there are like phases of a life where we're just seemingly we're doing nothing, but underground it's like when all the work is on, like especially when I'm like in my rest period. And that's something that I'm also noticing and observing in myself, is like in my rest cycle, I think I'm not doing anything, but actually I'm being in my rest cycle so much more, because like I'm planting the seeds of what is going to like show up in the future. So this is a great like fun question for people to play with. Like, what are you planting right in these 10 seconds that you're not acknowledging, that if you would acknowledge it would not make you go into the distractor implants of blame, shame, regret, and guilt. So yeah.
That's a great question. That is a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it almost like, I like to look at it also as like, if you've ever driven and not an automatic, a manual. I'm like, what is the name of it? A manual car where you have to use the gas and the clutch. There's a certain place where there's that sweet spot where you have enough going on that you're not bored and creating crap, and you're not like choosing so much stuff that you're like flooring it, and
Yeah.
your life moves forward with ease. And so what things can you add that will create more for you and create ease at the same time?
Yeah. And that thing that you just spoke about, like the synergy of the clutch and the accelerator and the brake. And like also what if when we are truly creating is when we are not on autopilot? So, like when we drive an automatic car, it's like, are we even driving it? But it's like so much like the car is driving itself because all I'm really doing is just steering wheel and accelerator and brake. But so how much of creation is a way of like getting ourselves out of autopilot? And how much like do we not create when our lives are on autopilot? So something on those lines. I just heard we just had a club consciousness call with Shannon, and she's speaking about how she's very diligent on not being on autopilot. And I found that so interesting. And now I'm like just tying that up with like this conversation of having too much and doing too much and being too much. Um, and how like creation is in essence coming out of autopilot. So if you could, to whoever's listening to this now in the future, what would happen if you came out of autopilot, came out of your routine, came out of your regular um, autopilot systems of I wake up and I'm going to have coffee and then I'm going to tend to my emails, and like what would happen if you would disrupt the routine and disrupt the autopilot systems? And I wonder how much that would create for everyone, and everything that doesn't allow you all to know, we perceive, receive that. Could you destroy and uncreate it, please? Do we use the clearing statement here?
Sure. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. I know it's, and that's where the 10-second increments works so well. And the last 2 years, with everything being so different and slowing down so much, it's been like easier and more challenging to be present, because there's a lot out there to be aware of. But at least for me, I've gotten way, way, way more present with, okay, now what would I like to choose? Instead of what I had to do before, like I had to go and open my store every single day. There was no other choice there unless, I got somebody to do it for me. So now there's so much more possibility. And when it's that big, wide open, how much do we try to limit it by what we think we need to do, by what other people think we need to do, instead of like, what could we truly choose that would be fun and expand your life and create a greater future for you and the world? Everything that doesn't allow that, let's destroy and uncreate it.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, pop, college, shots, boys, and beyonds. And it's to add to that, like I just got present with like with the quote unquote global pandemic that we just went through. How much did all of us have to face our demons and realize and acknowledge to ourselves that we're not choosing for ourselves, but we're just on autopilot, and like really coming face to face with, I'm really not happy because this is not my reality and I'm not choosing for myself. And like we had so much time because time slowed down per se. Um, to really like acknowledge, hey, this is not working for me anymore. And I wonder, like coming out of the pandemic, like a lot of us have changed drastically, irrespective of whether we're doing access or not, like in terms of how we are living our lives. Like I don't think everyone's gone back to normal, because there is no normal to go back to anymore. So how much more can we acknowledge what is my reality, what is not my reality, what is my reality, what is not my reality? And like the clearer we can get with what is true for you and what is your reality, the more congruent we keep getting with what we are asking for. And like the more congruent we get with what we're asking for, the quicker it shows up. So like, because a lot of the classes that I facilitate and I attend, like there's a lot of people that ask questions of like, what is congruency and what do you mean by, am I congruent with what I'm asking for? It's like when we ask the questions like, what is real for me, what is true for me, what is my reality? um Once we have like total clarity with that, we can have like total congruency with our asks. Otherwise, we like, who are you even asking for? Like, and what are you asking for? Like when you say, I want to create this, or want to have, not you, but like whoever, like who, if I want to create this and I want to have this and I want to be this, do you, or are you, or like who does that belong to? The basic tools of who does it belong to? Because if
So true.
98, if like, and I just like go a step further and go like, okay, if 98% of what I'm asking for is not mine, then what will I ask for?
Yeah. And I like to go back to, at least for me, when I was younger, I created all this really cool stuff, and I felt like I was alone in my own little world in a way, because nobody understood what I was doing. But I created this business right out of college that like expanded worldwide, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just creating for the fun of it, and the product got on Oprah, and it was like boom, and it was totally my reality. And then at a certain point, people started judging me. And that's when I started to close it all down. So, where were you being you, having your reality, creating your life, and people couldn't understand it? And so they started judging you because it made them feel uncomfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
I like far out created what my mom ever created in business. And that was so disrupting of her reality. So everywhere we're doing that, and everywhere we're holding ourselves back because of the discomfort that it creates for other people, rather than realizing that that could be inspiring for other people. Let's destroy and uncreate that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and vodka, all nine shorts, boys and meows.
I'm curious, what was that product that you created that what was the product you created right out of college?
Oh, it was they were pocket inspirational stones called magic stones,
Okay.
and they were etched glass, and I created this symbol language. So it had a symbol and a word on it, and we would hand do them all and sandblast them, and they were colorful, and you could put them in your pocket, and like they went all over the world. It was quite amazing, because I always wanted to create things to inspire people to choose more and be happy. I was
I
crazy.
mean, no, I mean, like there are no coincidences in life, right? My name is Prerna, which in Hindi means inspiration. So, and I was like, like that's also been like one of the like, what can I be and do to like inspire other people? And one of the things that I realized, and I think you've realized as well, there are a lot of people that will listen to this. When you are being the leader of your life, then you are an inspiration for other people. Like following doesn't really create inspiration. So I wonder like what leaders we all are that we're not acknowledging, and specifically like with business and creating our lives and with money and relationships and families.
Yes.
So I like the whole Christianity, churches, Hinduism, like every culture just, in essence is about creating followers. Like what if like being a leader itself is a disruptive force? So I wonder who and what are we unwilling to disrupt when we are unwilling to be the leaders. So yeah, yeah, this is quite an interesting conversation. It's giving me a lot of ideas as well.
I know it always goes somewhere that we don't expect. But it's cool. If anybody has any questions, you can type it in the chat. And there is a little bit of a delay, but we will acknowledge that. Somebody was saying disrupting habit patterns. Yes, and love the conversation. Thank you. Yeah. So the other thing that I was noticing is choosing multiple things and how they add to one another. And how you were saying, I'm not sure that I'm up for doing this. And I said, well, does it create more? Because I was totally willing to just do it on my own.
Yeah.
But I'm really making a demand of myself to be in question and not in conclusion, because I'm a conclusion queen and I'm taking my crown off.
I like before, like having like before I messaged you, the first question I asked myself is like, if I do this, what will my life be like 5 years from now? Was so light, and then I was like, if I don't do this, what will my life be like 5 years from now? I was heavy, and then even then, like I allowed my tiredness to
Yes.
dictate what I was choosing and what I wasn't choosing. And this is about acknowledging, like, that you catch yourself in those little moments and you realize, oh, I'm not following the energy. Like when just following the energy would create so much greater. I don't know how this is going to connect and who this is going to connect to and how it's going to show up. It's just following the energy, because I remember like somewhere, I don't even know where and how I came across you and I filled up your calendar where, like you were inviting certified facilitators. I don't even remember where I saw it, and I filled it up for like today,
Right.
whatever the date is today. And
It's
I
way
was
in the
like,
future, which is now.
and I was like, oh, that is so light. And like I want to do that. And I signed up for it. And then and that's also what Gary talks about, right? Like just before everything that you're asking for starts actualizing and comes into existence, there's like this feeling of huge resistance where we feel like nothing is working and we feel like we've lost the energy, when actually it's that exact point when you have to like take one more step and one more step and like really push through. So how much are we unwilling to push ourselves through the discomfort? Because to be here right now is very discomforting to me, but like pushing through that discomfort and like still making a different choice, that in these 10 seconds I am willing to make a different choice even if it's uncomfortable, and that means I have to get out of bed in spite of being in immense pain. And I'm like, if it creates a future, would you still do it, like if it's uncomfortable? So
Well, let me ask you though, how are you feeling now?
amazing, like you do it and then you're like, oh, this was easier than I thought it would be. Like I thought it would be like it would take a toll on my body and etc etc, like you said, conclusions and like someone said, like one of the participants, like habit patterns, right? Like
Yep. But a lot of it is the discomfort in our head that we
yeah,
think it's going to be. And
yeah,
many people do this before a class, even, before a bars class, before a foundation class. And they write you a message, oh, I'm going to cancel because I don't feel well. And at first, years ago, when I first started doing this, I was like, oh, bummer. Okay, fine. But now I ask questions and I say, this happens a lot to a lot of people. And if you actually look into the future, if you choose it, what will that create? And, let them choose whatever they want. They don't have to do the class.
yeah.
But I know that everybody who has resistance before a class is because of the change that they're going to get. And actually coming to the class makes everything feel so much lighter, so much faster than not choosing it.
It's true. And I just wanted to acknowledge that to you as well before sending the message to you that, hey, can we reschedule or can I cancel? The questions and the energy that you were being was so like non-judgmental, and it didn't come from like this, like you weren't projecting like a sense of wrongness in my universe, which made it easier for me, like be like, okay, let me just get up and go take a shower and do this. And that's the beauty of asking questions, and that's the beauty of like holding that energy and that space of like, hey, choose what works for you, but what are you choosing what works for you? Like just like one question of like, are you choosing what works for you, and will this create a greater future for you if you choose it? And I was like, of course it would. I just need to follow the energy. I just need to like stop getting in my own way. So just wanted to acknowledge that space that you were being like, thank you for that. Like I was ready to like get bombarded, like I'm canceling last minute or I'm rescheduling last minute, this is not going to be
It
fun.
happens all the time. And I'm grateful for the acknowledgement. And wow, I've really made a lot of progress. And, it's funny. It's like when you get to interesting point of view, it doesn't really matter what shows up, what doesn't show up. Things change all the time. I often talk about life being like a kaleidoscope, and every choice you make is the turn of the kaleidoscope, and every time it can come out to this beautiful creation, and
Yeah.
it's a surprise. You don't know what it has to look like.
Yeah. And I've heard Gary and Shannon speak a lot about learn from the nature, follow the nature. If it's true for nature, it's true for you. If it's not true for nature, it's not true for you. And I never like cognitively got it. So I remember just sitting once and like looking outside my window, and I looked at this tree. It's like, could you teach, what do you know about the energetics of creation? Like, could you teach, like, what is creation for you? And like the awareness was so like, I'm just creating, and like one fruit is going to show up this way and one fruit is going to show up, and one is going to go up there, and maybe it'll come up like a month from now, one will come up 6 months from now, but like there's no like expectation and conclusion that every fruit or every product that comes out of me has to be perfect and has to come at this time and there's no like, I will only make one fruit and make it the best fruit of my life. Like they just, like
Right.
producing and like doing its thing, and like how much, and then I'm because I'm a perfectionist to the core. Like if I do something, I have to do it perfect, and perfection is the biggest judgment there is. So I wonder how many people on the call like stop themselves from doing something because they hold themselves back because it may not be perfect, and they want to like ace it and be certified to do it and get validated before they do it, and rather than just go ahead and like create. And how much of like creation is just that sense of, oh, there's this happening and there's that happening, there's that happening and there's that happening. Like there's a multitude of things that happen at the same time. And there's like, it makes no sense to the logical mind because there is no step one, step two, step three, step four. And even if you look at like access and how it gets created, there is literally no form, structure, and significance. So
It's true. And back in college, I was a double major, fine art and psychology. And in art, we once got this assignment of doing a painting a day, every single day. And at the beginning, we were like, oh my God, a painting a day. But the more we got into it, the more it flowed and the easier it got and the more prolific. And to this day, now when I sit down to paint, oftentimes I'll have 3 or 4 canvases that I'm working on all at the same time, because it's actually easier and more fun. And that's actually our reality, is to go do everywhere instead of trying to pull our focus in and narrow it onto the one thing. So
yeah.
how many things can you add, and what else can you include in your awareness, and start to find your capacity rather than feel overwhelmed? Everything that is times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And here I was thinking maybe I don't know much about creation. But the lies we tell ourselves. But
Yes. If
so,
we're thinking we're stinking, and we're usually, creating more roadblocks for ourselves.
yeah. And I remember like I used to be terrified of Facebook lives. Like I could do Zoom calls. It could have hundreds of participants on it, no problem. But if it came to doing like a Facebook live and Instagram live, I would like freeze up, right? And how much of course, like who does that belong to? But here's the thing, the more I did Facebook lives, the easier and easier it got.
Mhm.
And like if so, whatever it is that you're, stopping yourself for, just do it once a day. I like, that thing that Dane spoke about, I think, a global foundation or COP, like do one thing and fuck it up really bad. Like be willing to screw up
Yeah.
one thing every day. So I wonder like if like fun home play for those of you that want to play along is like if you could find one thing and like really screw it up. Like the agenda with that is to screw it up. So how much fun could you have with like creating, like if you would just allow yourself to screw it up and screw it up like as much as you want to screw it up, like go nuts. Go screw it up. Give yourself the full permission to like make a fool of yourself and like laugh about it and not make it significant. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It's making me remember how a long time ago I was at a 7-day in Costa Rica, and Gary was he was talking about basically being a happy idiot, you know, and he started doing blah, 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 like that. And he was like, come on, everybody, do this. And I remember I did not want to do that because I was, you know, trying to be perfect and trying to be adult and trying to be serious and trying all these things. And I couldn't even do it. And now it's like, God, how silly that was. So, you know, how many of you are resisting being the happy 6-year-old in an adult body that gets to do all kinds of things and has money?
Yeah.
So much more fun.
Yeah. So, do we have any questions? Like, are there any questions
There were
or
no questions.
one? We are talking to every thought that's in everyone's head. We're like, oh
So
no,
I'll just ask you really quick, what kinds of things are you creating right now? Like classes and stuff.
So I have well, I'm a talk to the entities facilitator. I'm a certified facilitator. So I have a talk to the entities class that's, I believe, starting on 14th April. And then I'm very excited. Like after 2 years, I'm like, because of COVID, I couldn't do like a foundational retreat. So
Wait, hold on. You're starting in on the 14th of April because I have one starting on the 15th and it keeps moving and changing. Are you doing it like half days or?
So this one, the one that I'm starting on 14th, I'm just doing it as a 2.5 day. But yeah, I have realized that when you do like 1.5 hours or like in 4 hours, like it's just like the date keeps shifting a lot. So it's a bit of a scheduling.
Interesting. Because I was like, what the heck?
I would just say choose what works for you, and then like be like once like really go to your like what worked for me is like going into the calendar, like really choosing what works for you, and then like putting the dates and the time out for everyone so that it's easier for everyone to like, I don't know, like people want to do form and structure, that I want to know the date and I want to know the time, and they try to like control whether they want to choose a class or not based on whether the time works or not. But I live in India and we attend classes all night, you know, like right now Global Foundation and COP, it would start at 9 in the night for us and would end like 4:30 in the morning.
Yep.
And I stayed up every day to attend those classes.
Yep.
But then we make it significant that people won't choose it, and like just like choose what works for you, and like people would just like, and then like it gets easier. But yeah, with like the longer the class goes on for, like right now I'm doing my ongoing talk to the entities is 8 calls, 1.5 hour each. It was a bit of a scheduling nightmare to like get everyone to be on the same call for 8 calls at the say
I can't imagine. Yeah, that I would think that would be a challenge.
And it's getting live translated in French. So it was even more difficult because I had to then get the check with the translator, the check with the participants. I was like, okay, next time I'm just doing it as a 2.5 day. It's going to be easier. So this time it's going to be 2.5 days. And then I have a foundational retreat coming up on 22nd April. So we have like this place called close to Bombay called Alibag. So it's about 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive from Bombay. And I've got like a beautiful villa and it's got a private pool, and we're just going to go there, stay there for 5 nights, 4 nights, and do the foundation there. That I'm very excited about. Like I love retreats, you know, where you can just go and like run body processes and be with everyone together. And yeah, what are you creating, Julie?
Well, the talk to the entities online, but it's going to be in 4 days, and it's over Easter weekend. So I'm skipping Sunday so that people can be with their families. And I was hoping that for people who are looking for the intermediate class that starts on the 20th, which is my birthday, that they'd have the beginning class right before that. I'm also doing a daily expanding exercise to really help people strengthen the muscle of their being. And that starts on April 4th. And who knows what else, all kinds of things. Beautiful jewelry.
Your lovely boutique. It's on display. I want to like go through the screen and have a look like what's up, what's happening. It all looks so pretty and like it's so well kept, like well decorated. And it's like pulling on me energetically. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
Oh, good. Here, I'll move.
Looks so pretty.
All right. Oh, well, our half hour is up so quickly. And thank you so much for making the effort and for keeping our date. And I look forward to playing with you sometime in the future.
Me too. Thank you so much for doing this and like being like that space of non-judgment of like, hey, choose what works for you. And like, thank you. It was lovely. It was quite a quick 30 minutes. And thank you to everyone watching this. And how does it get? Eddie better. Eddie better.
How does it? Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.